Well, welcome, Kristen. I have really been looking forward to this episode of our podcast. So, how are you today? Looks nice and sunny out there.
So good. Atlanta is bringing the weather today, as you can see, and I'm so excited to talk to you about all the awesome topics we have on hand.
Yeah, yeah. We're after we chatted, we're like two peas in a pod talking about how you have the strategic approach to marketing, and yeah, that's all about what we're doing. So, this podcast is all around metrics that matter. So, how marketing earns a seat at the B2B executive table. So I'm excited to chat about all things marketing metrics, but I want to introduce you, Kristen, to our audience so they know your amazing background. So Kristen Rachels is a full stack CMO who spent over 2 decades growing B2B tech companies. She currently serves as a CMO at Itential, an enterprise IT SaaS company, where she spent the last 6+ years helping take the business from its early days defining a market to becoming a recognized leader in it. Kristen's a true startup to scale up CMO who's not afraid to get into the weeds, whether that's shaping strategy, building pipeline, or partnering with sales to make the numbers real. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. So let's just kind of set the stage here. I think both of us have spent a few decades in the CMO chair. And I would really love for you to share your experience about, how has your thinking about marketing evolved over the years? And now that you're in the executive seat, what do you think are the critical pieces?
Well, let's first take a step back and talk about like what hasn't changed in the past, year, 2 years. Marketing is, I believe, something that is being more disrupted than any other department right now within organizations. So the rise of AI and, AI is coming for marketing first, and it is not taking any prisoners to the end of the growth at all cost era, which, set a lot of marketers up for success and has been really the main way in which we would measure, ourselves, our business, to now the need for cost optimization and efficient growth being what's in vogue. And so what hasn't changed for marketers, right? It's everything I ever thought I knew. Being in marketing for 2 decades plus has just completely gone out the window. And we're trying to redefine, what is the marketing role? What is the CMO role? And one thing I always love to say is that brand and demand is what got us here, but it's not the playbook that's going to keep us here. It's not the playbook that's going to keep marketing relevant, keep marketing having a seat at the table. And the plays didn't break, they just didn't evolve. And we're,
Mhm.
still relying on these metrics and these sort of outdated ways of measuring marketing, brand and demand. And I really believe it's time to keep evolving, not only with the times, but evolve to be held accountable to metrics that the business cares about.
Well, let's dive into that. So I
Yeah, lots to
love what
unpack
you
there.
said when we were chatting. You said, Dana, I am so sick of the BS metrics in marketing. I loved it.
Oh, where do we
So
begin?
unpack that for us a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. So, keeping with the same sort of like evolution is like, when was the last time we honestly took a step back and said, how do we measure marketing? What does marketing do? What is its effectiveness? We're still hanging on to the same metrics of leads generated and MQLs and SQLs and SALs and like insert yet another acronym that is, marketing saying like, I generated demand and I'm going to pass it to sales, and sales, it's all on you. And like that has been the metrics I, learned in college, the metrics I've been held accountable to for so long. But now the name of the game is no longer like generate a lead, pass it over. Let's think about how B2B buyers buy today, right? It is pretty much for the most part devoid of ever talking to a seller for at least 80 to 90% of the buying process. So they're learning on their own, they're researching on their own. Marketing is now driving more of the funnel, more of the customer journey, yet the way we're KPI'd is still in the very early stages of a journey. And we're now saying, okay, how does marketing show relevancy in this no longer just generate a ton of leads and throw it over the fence? And I'd say like now it's time for CMOs and marketing teams to step up and own a number, own pipeline, own conversion rates, play a role in sales velocity, play a role in CAC, understand the pipeline to revenue conversion and how what you're driving, the demand you're creating, the demand that's being captured, how is that getting translated into the metrics that the business cares about? Lots to unpack there.
Yeah, no, there is a ton. And that is the strategic impact of marketing, right? I mean, you're growing a business, you start with direct sales, you add marketing so that you can scale faster, right?
Yep.
So you know, why do companies struggle? And I'm going to withhold
Yeah.
my thought on it because I want to see yours. But why do companies struggle to be able to describe the things you're talking about? Marketing contribution. What's the marketing number? How is marketing impacting sales velocity? The real things that are moving the business forward. Why are companies struggling with that?
Oh God, where do we begin? Lots of different levels there. Culture, operations, technology. Let's talk culture first. Marketers speak a language that is completely different than anyone else in the business. It's funny that the CFO, the CRO, the CEO, they all speak revenue, CAC, lifetime value, retention. Yet marketing is campaigns and leads and brand and things that are ethereal. I always say brand and demand are huge. Brand builds trust. Demand is what keeps them coming back and keeps, you top of mind when a buyer is ready to make a decision. But it doesn't stop there. It's like, how is brand and demand and the things marketers love impacting the business and driving revenue? And from a cultural perspective, we're not, we've never been taught or ingrained to like talk in those sort of business metrics. Like we speak a different language, we always have. And, I just remembered so many countless meetings with CEOs, current and former, where they're like, like, so you had a ton of web traffic or you had great conversion rates, but like, what does that mean?
Mhm.
And it kind of, pushed me to evolve. How is marketing playing a bigger role in this? And how can I own a larger contribution to this puzzle piece, right? So culture is one. We've got to get out of our own way and start talking in metrics that the business cares about. Um, Operations and technology is the big one. And I would still aim to say that marketing has what, on some cases, 20 plus different channels you're measuring, and the way you measure them are not all the same. So you have this siloed mess of data that is all coming in and impacting pipeline that you're driving or pipeline that you're influencing, and everything in sales land is very black or white. You either booked the meeting or you didn't, you either moved the deal or you didn't. But marketing has all of these crazy metrics, and we've yet to really, I feel like, land on an operational threshold, a technology threshold that like helps tie our activities to the actual business. And so you have to take a step back, and that's what some of the things I love that you're doing with ayeQ is you're really helping to connect all of those dots for marketers, for sellers across the larger pipeline picture. But when you're devoid of awesome technology like that, you have to really understand, are we, I look at like book to held, account worked to meeting booked to meeting held. If that's accelerating, if we're getting in the door at a quicker pace, if our BDRs and AEs are trained to know how to talk, that's marketing at work. Because the prospect is like, I know that company. I'd love to book a meeting. Let's get this going. Is the velocity of the sales cycle increasing? Like there's all these details that show that marketing is impacting and working, yet marketers don't know how to talk that way, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you a funny story. You know, uh, I'm an engineer by background and I landed in
Yeah.
marketing, a very strange path. But the first time I ran a marketing department, I was like, oh my gosh, how do you guys even know why you're doing what you're doing? What's good and bad?
What's working, what's
And
not? Yeah.
what's working and what's not. And because I'm like, this is an optimization equation, right? How do we produce the most closed bookings? And so we did regression models and all of this really geeky stuff. And I went to my creative director and I said, you know what, Steve? When we're running the branding campaigns, our conversion rates all the way through the sales process are better. And I can prove it. And he said, well, I could have told you that before without any of those models, but because the
Hmm.
marketing expertise, they know it. they know it instinctively how to help
Yep.
the business, but because they can't say it in the terms, the
Yes.
right terms, they don't get the credit they deserve.
Yep. 100% agree. And it takes a data scientist to help translate it. So I'm like, how do we break down these walls and help marketers see and marketing teams see that the work they're doing is driving impact and pipeline creation and conversion and velocity, and how we can acquire customers at a lower rate and retain them, like that full life cycle is still a long ways to go. I mean, I still am wondering who owns the framework. We're still relying on like the Forrester B2B frameworks or the HubSpot inbound frameworks. Like there's really a room right now in the market for a new framework of measuring marketing. And until then, I just say like you got to own a number, marketers. You got to own a number. You got to sign up to have a seat at the table.
Yeah, and to your point earlier, that is how we are evolving, right? That's
Yeah.
our platform is helping the market evolve. Because we're looking at it with, okay, marketing has a number. We calculated it based on our performance model,
Hmm.
calculated from the financial objectives of the company. Now, if marketing does this, then our company will be successful, right?
Yep.
Then they have a number. Did they hit it? What's their, not only contribution, but to your point, impact on sales velocity? And it's really cool because when we have our dashboards showing marketing sourced opportunities or marketing influenced opportunities versus those that are not influenced by marketing, the sales velocity is always better.
Off
And
the charts. Yeah.
and it's like, and I have never seen one of our customers with a dashboard that did not have significant difference. And as marketers, we know that we are doing that. We just
Yep.
can't show it. With,
Yep.
oh yeah, my win rate is, twice as high, and my sales cycle is, two-thirds the length, and my deal size is twice as high. I mean, it's
Yep.
incredible. It really
It
is.
is. And then what becomes the awesome question is when your CFO and your CEO are like, okay, go get more of that. Like, yeah, okay, budget, programs like I need to be, so you're now able to show impact of marketing on actual revenue being generated. And then therefore you're no longer in this budget war or this spend war. Like you understand what it costs to acquire, how to acquire, and how it moves through the funnel and ties into revenue. And it's a beautiful story, but it's just not something that I feel like the majority of marketers I speak to can translate that or understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, so let's talk about, how you are managing through that as an executive at the table, as a strategic executive at the table. You know, what are some of your advice to the marketing leaders out there, that are kind of in this transition? Because you are right. I mean, it used to be throw money at marketing because it's, growth at all cost. That is gone. That is
On.
way gone, right? And the unit economics is where we
Yes.
are, right? It's how is every investment we're making the optimal investment to make to get to the highest growth numbers. And
Yes.
that, and a lot of companies are struggling to guess at those things. It's a guess.
Yeah. Again, a lot to unpack there. Um, so a couple of things. One, like I've said it a ton of times, I'm going to keep saying it. Sign up to own a number. Play a key role with your CRO, your CSO, your head of sales to be a partner in the trenches. Like for me, I own all pipeline. It doesn't matter where it comes from, how it's sourced. I want to ensure that I'm putting a number on my head that is, I'm in this with you. I want to source all new business, expansion, retention, all pipeline, associated with the business is on me to generate and own. And your role is to close and capture it. So it's like I'm in the trenches with you. And that is something that I think has really brought sales and marketing much closer. We're much more collaborative. We are aligned on the same KPIs. Our teams and ourselves are compensated in the same way so that we're both incentivized to want to drive value for the company. Next, I would say have a seat at the table
I'm sorry,
for,
can
oh
I
yeah,
just, I love what you were saying, we're compensated in the way, in the same way. What do you mean? Because I've always found that, the compensation piece is really key in getting that alignment because we're all working towards the same numbers.
yeah,
Is there anything on the comp side that is like, this is a little pearl of wisdom?
revenue, retention, pipeline, the three main things. Are we hitting our pipeline targets? Are we driving the revenue goals? And are we ensuring that we're retaining and, mitigating churn?
So
So
you're incentivizing your team. Their incentive compensation is based on those metrics. That's amazing.
yes,
That's
yes. And
fantastic.
it changes the game. So you're no longer like, yay, marketing. Like I love this analogy. My CEO uses it all the time. He'll say, surgery successful, patient dead. So you could have a bad quarter for sales, but marketing is over here like, but we ran the best campaigns ever. We had the most mentions, ever. We got this huge lift, but yet the two sides could be, polar opposite from each other. And that is really, I believe, the state of sales and marketing for a lot of organizations. And when you bring each other together and you align on a unified revenue target and you're both your teams are compensated and aligned around the metrics that matter, you no longer have this like one's cheerleading and the other's losing. You're in it together, and it changes the mentality, the behavior, the psychological aspects of what it means to be in marketing. And you start to say like, I don't know if that item that I wanted in my budget or that program I wanted to run really will be something that can drive the success we're looking for. And you start to actually analyze how you function a lot better.
There is so much to unpack in that alignment piece because the alignment that is the magic sauce, right? It
Yeah, yeah,
really is. And you've been talking about marketing's impact on sales velocity. And when marketing and sales come together and they're solving the same problem, that really changes culture. It's not
yeah.
this anymore that you're not giving us enough leads and you're not following up on our leads. That is a recipe for disaster. That's poison, I think, for an
Yeah.
organization. But when we're looking at all of the marketing activities, and we're not, to your point, we're not looking at views and clicks and followers because there is nothing that will get a CFO or a CFO more infuriated than saying,
Yeah.
I got all these views and clicks. It's like we don't put views and clicks in the bank, right? So
Right.
but when you're solving the problem together and you're analyzing the tactics that are having the most impact on sales ability to close deals fast, close bigger deals faster, that's a really good partnership.
And
Then
then then you start to be able to see like, how is one vertical performing better than another? And, like an indicator would be like, how are we booking more meetings in this vertical than we are another? And you start to look into the sales metrics. And then when you open into the marketing land to understand like, what is our vertical solutions pages performing? How are the email tracks or the paid campaign tracks in that vertical performing? And you're able to marry the data on both sides of the house and see the bigger picture and understand how to course correct versus sellers being in their own world and having, their own metrics and marketing, not even thinking or acting on sales metrics. And now you're aligned and your calls and your interactions are how do we build better playbooks together versus siloed running of programs.
yeah, and I think the systematic chasm between sales automation being built for sales and marketing automation being built for marketing, and you described it. We've got all these tools over here, and sales has all these tools over here, and it's like, how are they influencing each other? And
Yes.
these systems, they're all transactional systems. Right. And that's why, we were talking about AI earlier. That's why AI trying to perform in transactional systems on structured data is not going well. It is simply not going well. Right. And that's
Yep.
why the industry is moving to y'all, you know, this is not, we know what metrics we need. We know how to build those metrics. We know how to unify a data model, but it requires this analytical environment to consume the transactional data so that we can use smart AI, smart models, and be
Yep.
directional and not just like, oh, here's a bunch of analytics. Go try to figure something out,
Yeah.
you know?
Which I feel like is kind of the state for everyone right now is data everywhere. And, we're in desperate need of a unified data layer, data metrics, data framework. I mean, you nailed it.
Mhm. All right. Well, I always love to. I have this feeling, Kristen, that we could go on like for a few hours here,
Oh
but
yeah.
I
Oh
try
yeah.
to
Oh
keep
yeah.
these somewhat short. But I always love to end with a few nuggets that our audience can take away. And what are some of those nuggets from an aspiring marketing leader as they're looking to get that strategic seat at the table? What would your advice to them be?
I'd say first step is join forces with your CRO and share in on developing the pipeline targets. It is historically something that CROs, CFOs do in a vacuum, and then they say, "Hey, marketing, here's the number." And you're like, "How is that going to align to my budget and to spend and to programs?" Get a seat at the table and start by just aligning on pipeline targets and take on a percentage of that you know you can source and that you can influence and start getting a seat at that table and owning that number and evolve from there.
Love it. Love it. Well, we're excited to see. I know you've got a launch going at Itential, and we're excited to see the outcome of that. I'm sure it's a,
Yes.
a ton of work going on right now.
All things AI. Gotta love it. Well,
Well,
thank you so much.
yeah, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll chat again soon, I'm sure. Good luck with the launch.
Can't wait. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.